Oh, wow.
No need to hover in the corner there. It's okay. We'll get started in 2 minutes. Couldn't resist the opportunity to call him out. Sorry. We see y'all from here.
They're like, no, we must do something.
Always. Maybe we could sing a song.
Which song?
Home rule is the greatest.
I don't know that one. Sorry.
I'll make one up.
Okay.
Between all the songs.
All right. The time is 7 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pileski.
Here.
Trustee Delapenna.
Here.
Trustee Domke.
Here.
Trustee Forsythe.
Here.
Trustee Lanisa. Here. Trustee Perkowski.
Here.
Trustee Trejo.
Here. We have a quorum. We'll now move on to presentation of the prepared agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. We'll now move on to Village Board public comment. Anyone wishing to provide a comment on a topic or an agenda item may address the Village Board during the public comment and public hearing segments of the Village Board agenda by submitting comments in advance using the online form or during the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any submitted in advance?
We have two in advance. The first one is from Jill Sagi of Roselle regarding waste and recycling. I understand the village is in the process of bidding the waste and recycling contract. I have contacted the current processor, Flood Brothers, several times requesting a tour of the recycling facility. Patricia Garola responded from January 2023 until August of 2023 that Flood Brothers was not set up for formal safe tours of their recycling facility. I urge the board and village staff to vet the bids for disposal and find the best fit for residents, keeping in mind not only cost, but quality of service. If recycling will not be done properly, the cost should be reduced. Some residents might like it if you also considered a food scrap compost process. Might not happen now because of cost, but should be on the radar when negotiating.
The current waste hauling contract that the village is in with Flood Brothers will end in the springtime of 2025. So at this stage, the board is going to be evaluating whether a contract extension can occur before we go out to a formal request for proposals. If anyone remembers when we did that first transition from our prior company to Flood Brothers, there's a lot of work that goes into swapping out bins and other things like that. And so if we can avoid that lengthy of a transition, we want to. I would say among that, the staff will be getting the board quotes and estimates on a number of different service add-ons, we would say, that could include composting, food scraps, yard waste, sticker removal, and other services such as that. One thing I have asked staff to look into, and we are currently talking with Flood, is about making sure that the board would have an opportunity to tour their facility firsthand. And so I feel pretty confident that's something we'll be able to do, at least for the board's sake. I understand the frustrations from our residents from a customer perspective, but there'll be something that will be coming up on agendas in the future, and we'll make sure the public's well aware of those from that standpoint. So thank you for the comment.
The second one is from Lisa Christensen of Roselle regarding ordinance preventing the housing of immigrants in hotels. Would the board consider initiating an ordinance preventing the housing of immigrants in hotels in Roselle?
Roselle currently has one hotel. It's located off of Lake and Gary. Currently at this point in time, it is our belief that the village does not have the authority to pass any ordinances regarding the kind of regulation of migrants, whether it's hotel, buses, trains and whatnot, because we do not have home rule. That is something that is not explicitly stated or given as to us as an authority by the state of Illinois. While some communities that are non-home rule have passed ordinances, those are very likely to end up in litigation. And I think Roselle has a very long history of trying to not spur lawsuits needlessly, I would say. And so that's something that, at this time, we have decided not to move forward because we don't believe we have the authority at this time. So any other comments?
In advance.
Thank you so much. Are there any members of the public here tonight that wish to address the board? All right, let the record show none. We'll now move on to officials and staff reports. Under my report, we're very excited to do the swearing in of our new Deputy Chief of Police, Rachel Dado. So I will invite our police chief up to share a few words before we get started with the ceremony tonight. If you don't mind, I'll ask you to use the microphone for our viewers at home because we want them to hear how great Rachel is.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I really appreciate this and the support for Rachel. I'm proud to submit Rachel's name to be promoted to the position of Deputy Chief, and I have a very brief bio. Rachel made me make it brief, but these are just some highlights here. So Rachel's been a police officer since being hired in 2003. During her career, Rachel's been a bicycle patrol officer, juvenile officer, arson investigator, and team leader on the DuPage County Fire Investigation Task Force. In 2018, Rachel was promoted to sergeant, and as well as running a shift, she administers the field training program, the Citizens Police Academy, Volunteers in Policing, our VIPs, many of which are here today, range, and taser. So Rachel will make a great addition to the RPD command staff, and I'm happy to have her sworn in as Deputy Chief tonight. Thank you.
You've done this a couple of times in your career here, so it shouldn't be too bad. We didn't change it, so just gotta say a different title. So you got your cheat sheet though. So if you'll raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Rachel Beda,
Having been appointed to the position of Deputy Police Chief
having been appointed to the position of Deputy Police Chief
in the Village of Roselle
in the Village of Roselle,
in the counties of DuPage and Cook,
Agent Code,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Deputy Police Chief
of Deputy Police Chief
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. And who will be pinning you tonight? Amana?
Oh, no. First of all, Mayor Ward, I really appreciate the opportunity to continue serving the residents of Roselle in this capacity. Very excited despite the nervous stuttering I'm doing at the moment. Thank you to Chief Bretto for affording me this opportunity as well. We've worked together a long time, so the fact that you still chose me. And then I would love to thank my family, my friends, my volunteers. I can't thank you enough for being here. It's an honor and a privilege to serve you, and I'm so grateful to see you here. I have my wonderful mother who, God bless her, has spent her entire adult life worrying about her husband and all three of her children and her children-in-laws. We're all in public safety. My wonderful husband, who I would not be here without his love and support. My son, Alex. My stepsons couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately. I have my nieces and my sister-in-law and my best friend, Karen. All of my officers, thank you so much. I'm going to stop rambling now, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome, man.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Photo here front and center. And just one on your, what I always like to share with our family is that come and whatnot, we take this this responsibility really seriously. And we want to make sure that we keep Rachel and all of our public safety officials safe and they come home every night to be with you guys. And so the board and I make it our number one priority to make sure we're well equipped, we're well trained, we do the right thing by our employees to keep our community safe. So we appreciate what you do to make our community a great place. Roselle loves our blue and our red and our public works employees because you guys do such a great job and take such pride in your responsibility. So Rachel, we're really excited to have you take on this leadership role. So thank you so much. And I hear there's probably desserts or something. So if you would like to go celebrate with Rachel, we won't be offended if you want to leave our exciting board meeting ahead. So. What can I say? I know how to clear out a room, guys. What I will say, while the room is clearing up for those of you at home and those of you that are staying with us, you'll have one more opportunity to have coffee with the board coming up in March. We had our February edition this last weekend, so we appreciate everyone who came out for that. We also have a public forum, the last of our series of 6 that we've done for the referendum. So if you would like to join us to hear more, come to Village Hall Thursday night at 7 p.m. It'll be streaming live online, so you can submit questions via our online question portal, or you can come in person. So we encourage anyone and everyone who has questions about the referendum coming up to come out. The board and I have been very accessible and willing to have conversations with everyone. And I think it's really important that everyone is educated on the topic so they can make the best decision possible. With that being said, the other thing I have under my report tonight is to pass an ordinance amending the liquor code for the number of Class I liquor licenses from 7 to 8 for Umai at 996 West Lake Street. So is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
I'll second that.
And this is to give a liquor license to the business that will be occupying the former Crazy Crab. They are a current operator of a number of other Asian or Asian inspired restaurants. And so we're excited to see an experienced restaurateur moving into the space and making sure that we continue to keep a restaurant space occupied on our very busy corridor. So there's no other discussion. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe. Aye. Trustee Lanisa. Aye. Trustee Prokowski.
Aye.
And that motion carries. And then the last thing I would like to report is on Friday, we had our 3rd annual Rose Ambassador Scholarship event where we had 11 participants. It was really exciting since we've relaunched it to see such high numbers of our youth participate in that. And we're very excited to have Angelina Italia be our 2024 reigning Rose Ambassador. So we'll be seeing more of her around town at all of our events. So congratulations to her and her family and to all the youth who participated. A lot of scholarships were given out. And so it's a great thing that the village helps support. And the Roselle Arts and Culture Foundation is now taking over kind of the long-term stewardship of. So appreciate those organizations. Is there any trustees that have a report tonight? Well, we'll do Trustee Prokowski first and then Wayne.
I just want to let everybody know, the Lake Park Educational Foundation has a fundraiser coming up on March 14th. It's at Topgolf Schaumburg. Tickets are available at the Lake Park Educational Foundation's website. So it's also there are sponsorship opportunities available. The cost for the tickets is $75 per golfer. You get a private bay at Topgolf. There will be food, drinks, things like that, and all the money is going to go to a great cause, supporting the scholarships, the various educational programs that the Lake Park Educational Foundation puts on. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Domke.
Yes, now that all the police have left, I feel like this is kind of anticlimactic. The Roselle Police Department is offering a 2-day AARP Smart Driver course, March 6th and 7th from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. And you have to attend both dates. The cost of the course is $20 for ARP members and $25 for non-members. And by the way, I just learned that
you can be an ARP member if you're 18 years of age or older. So just about everybody in the room qualifies to get in ARP. I had to qualify at 50, but now they've dropped the standards. I guess there's running out of people.
Kids these days have it too easy, Wayne, right?
Yeah. They said they must be dying off or something because they need to go down to the 18s. By taking this out, a 6-hour course, you'll learn evidence-based safe driving strategies, new traffic laws and rules of the road, and how to deal with aggressive drivers. Also, you could register at www.roselle.il.us or pick up your application with Chief Barretto at the Roselle Police Department. So give them a go over there. That's that dude back there in the corner. All right, that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other trustees have a report tonight? Seeing none, village clerk? Village attorney?
No report.
Village administrator? All right, we'll move under unfinished business. Tonight we have the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, or non-controversial in nature and will be enacted in one motion. There'll be no discussion of these items. Tonight we have presentation approval of the village board minutes of January 15th and January 22nd, 2024. Adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the 2024 Devlin Basin Sanitary Sewer Evaluation Survey between the Village of Roselle and RJN Group Incorporated in the amount of $317,806. Adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for pavement evaluation and management professional services between the Village of Roselle and IMS Infrastructure Management Services LP in the amount of $57,525. Adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement by and between the Village of Roselle and Great Lakes Urban Forestry Management Incorporated for EAB management services and tree inventory maintenance. And adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement by and between the Village of Roselle and Great Lakes Urban Forestry Management Incorporated for consulting municipal forestry and arborists. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Okay, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a roll call, please.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll now move on to our regular agenda. We have nothing under community development tonight. Administration, Trustee Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move to, passage of an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a short-term lease agreement for the property commonly referred to as 233 East Maple Avenue, Roselle, Illinois, 60172.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Just for the public's awareness, this is to allow a local artist to have access to the garage at the former Trinity Daycare Center to construct a first responder memorial that's too large to fit in their studio. So so grand it needs to have a studio space. So there's no questions or debate from the board. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
That motion carries. I need to stop taking sips right before the end of votes. Trustee Forsythe, anything else?
Yes, one more item. I would like to move passage of an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 15 of the Code of Ordinances for the Village of Roselle, Illinois.
Your second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
That motion carries.
And that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you so much. We have nothing under fire. Police, Trustee Domke.
Actually have one. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the purchase of one 2024 Chevrolet Blazer EV PPV from Dick Wickstrom Chevrolet pursuant to the Village of Roselle's temporary purchasing policy.
Second.
Thank you. Any staff presentation on this one? Cool. Any questions from the board? I'll just say, I think this is an exciting and a conservative test of an EV vehicle for us. This is our first full EV. The nice thing is having our police chief test it gives us a really good perspective, I think, for if this is something that's durable and appropriate for us to invest in down the road. The nice thing is it's not putting public safety or anyone in the community at risk due to concerns about, EV stability or ability to perform correctly. So this will be something that I think will be, we'll learn a whole lot. And through that, we can also invest through ComEd and hopefully helping to electrify our fleet and have the right infrastructure to support this going forward in the long run. So could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa?
Aye.
Trustee Trejo?
Aye. That motion carries. Anything else, trustee Domke?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm waiting for Tom Perkowski to do his gig now, which is quite long.
All right, we'll move on to Public Works then. It's the Public Works Rodeo Roundup with trustee Prokowski.
Thank you, Mayor Plesky. I'd like to move adoption of a resolution and authorizing the execution of a subrecipient agreement by and between the Village of Roselle and the County of Cook for the Roselle Road pedestrian improvements.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? I think this is just an exciting additional grant that we've been able to obtain. So it's $190,000. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it all adds up. We had over $4 million in grants awarded to the village last year. So it's a great way for us to continue to hopefully help bridge the divide that happens east-west from Roselle Road. So we know that there's a huge amenity on one side of that street. So we want everyone to be able to safely get there. So
Yeah, and that's been a kind of a gap.
absolutely. And I think what's frustrating for a lot of people is we can't just build something or do something. We have to go through waves of engineering and studies to make sure people know it's not going to hurt people or it's not going to be unsafe. And especially when it's a county road or a state road, we have to play by the rules. So it's really nice when we get to spend someone else's money to become compliant. So there's no other debate. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sorry, Trustee Delapenna?
Aye.
Sorry.
Still aye.
Okay, great. Trustee Prokowski?
Aye.
Trustee Domke?
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna?
Aye again.
Trustee Forsythe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa?
Aye.
Trustee Trejo?
Aye. And that motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item 13B, I'd like to move adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for design engineering services for the Plum Grove Road Bridge Deck Rehabilitation between the Village of Roselle and Civil Tech Engineering Incorporated in the amount of
I'll
$49,946.
second.
Any discussion?
Our obligation, right?
Yep, it's another great thing that was devolved down to the municipality to fund. Originally, this was something, if I remember correctly, we were not intending to be responsible for paying to kind of rehab this surface. And now the state has gifted us this a couple of years ago, a number of years ago. So, but Tollway. Well, Tollway is the state to me, so it's one and the same as far as entities go. So, but
We don't get any toll money, right?
no, of course not. So.
Thank you.
But they gave us those decorative prairie grass screenings on the bridge, so be careful what you ask for. Any other comments or questions? Can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Prokowski?
Aye.
Trustee Domke?
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna?
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa? Aye. Trustee Trejo?
Aye. That motion carries.
Moving on to item 13C, I'd like to move adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for preliminary design engineering services for the Devlin wastewater treatment plant expansion and nutrient removal upgrades between the Village of Roselle and Trotter and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $789,500.
Second again.
Thank you, and I'll invite our Public Works Director, Karen Young, up to give a summary. This is the beginning of the $80 million we need to spend in projects to upgrade our sewer treatment plant. So,
Away we go.
Way we go.
Director
Yeah.
Young.
We've actually already been down the path a little bit with the conceptual stage, but the next two items are related to everything in our wastewater master plan relating to the changing regulatory requirements, our aging infrastructure and equipment, as well as capacity limits at our Devlin wastewater treatment plant. So these projects were all brought up as part of that whole wastewater master plan that includes about $80 million of projects over the next several years. The construction will be starting in 2025, completed in 2027, which will be in advance of our regulatory requirements of 2028. So they'll give us a little bit of time to tweak things and make sure that we're fully compliant by that timeframe. And as part of this, Trotter would be completing, the final design and permitting phase. And then as part of this, we're recommending combining all these projects into complete packages, one package at Devlin and the other one in Bodermond, to provide us some opportunity for cost savings as well as operational efficiencies moving forward. So I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding these two items if you have any.
Any questions or comments from the board?
That's a 100-year-old plant, huh?
Almost 100 years. By the time this is done, yes.
We've kept it together
Yep.
100 years, and now we have to throw some big bucks into it.
Correct.
All right, seeing no questions or comments from the board, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Prokowski?
Aye.
Trustee Domke?
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna?
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa? Aye. Trustee Trejo?
Aye. That motion carries.
Moving on to item 13D, I'd like to move adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for design and permitting engineering services for the Boterman wastewater treatment plant biological nutrient removal upgrades, clarifier and headworks improvement projects between the Village of Roselle and Trotter and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $584,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Della Penna.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Moving on to item 13E, I'd like to move adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Builders Paving LLC for the 2024 street improvement program in the amount not to exceed $1,068,200.00.
Second.
Oh.
Any discussion or comments from the board? I know we just pulled up on the screen for those of you at home and those of you in the audience, what streets would be covered by the pavement program this year. I think one thing that was a pleasant surprise is bids came back under budget. So that means we don't have to cut things. Usually we go out with the intention that we know we have to cut back on certain streets that we'd be able to repave. This year, we were fortunate that we had favorable bids. So it doesn't happen every year. You can't forecast to that. So that's one thing we don't have to worry about. One thing that's important to note is this year's budget covers 1.71 miles. That's higher than we've been able to do historically due to bids and how they've come back. The village is responsible for maintaining 77 miles of streets. So under our current budget constraints, we're usually getting to each street once every 44 years. So just
45.
something just to keep in mind. And when we talk about things and whatnot, we've been very smart about how we budget to make sure that we aren't requiring additional funds, but it does have a impact on operations in the long term. And especially a lot of these subdivisions were built around the 70s and 80s. They're coming to the end of their useful lifespan. We're going to see a lot of streets coming up for repairs here soon that are going to need funding. So,
Can I ask-
see Domke.
So, our gas tax pays for the money we can use for streets, right?
So we receive funding from a number of different sources that go towards our pavement program. The number one is our vehicle stickers. So vehicle stickers generate anywhere between $600,000 to $700,000 annually a year. And so those funds are allocated towards some of those projects. Other funding sources, I'll turn to our finance director to kind of just illuminate how we kind of, how the money is pulled together. Because I'm sure it varies year to year. So.
It does, but this, since the state passed a couple of years ago, they enhanced the MFT, the motor fuel tax that's charged in the state of Illinois. The majority of that is going to be used to pay for this year's program. So we get about $1 million in MFT. So this is 1,068,000. So all of it will come from the MFT fund.
And so if we do go to more electric vehicles, the state has not figured out how they're gonna compensate us for the loss of gasoline tax money for the roads. So that's another threat to our road budget, right?
Right, but the way the last several years, our MFT has been growing, because of the escalator they put in the tax. But we haven't seen it regress because of EV. I think EV would have to be adopted at a very large rate for us to start seeing that.
Thank you.
Trustee Burkowski.
Also, just another thing though, cars are just getting more efficient in general, all these sort of things. So chances are at some point, yes, this will probably need to be solved, but that's not necessarily a problem that's like pressing today.
I think it's an opportunity, depending on how things go this spring, the board can obviously evaluate a lot of these programs. And I think in my mind, part of evaluating our vehicle sticker program is that look different for a hybrid or a electric vehicle. You see a lot of articles. Tennessee actually has different taxes or registration fees based on the vehicle type. And so I think there's a lot of things we can learn out there in the marketplace that we could consider as a board from that side of things. So all very good, compelling points. I think it's important to note the MFT or the motor fuel tax is something that the state of Illinois gives us by their own will. As the state has decided to change things over time, they can will that away from us. We at one point used to get a larger share of the state income tax that has been reduced and not given back to the municipalities, creating issues for us since the recession. So these are all things that while we do appreciate that we do receive it, we have no control over it. And so it is concerning at times because Illinois isn't always a generous dance partner, we'll put it that way. So Any other comments on the street improvement plan for 2024? Could we have a roll call?
Trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
That motion carries.
That is all I have, Mayor Plesky.
We'll move on to finance. Trustee Delapenna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable list for February 2024 in the amount of $2,201,153.18.
Your second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa. Aye. Trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll now move on to new business. So we have two different presentations from our design and landscape architecture consultant, Confluence. And so I'll have Jason Belowski, Village Administrator, kind of open us up to discuss the changes to the municipal campus improvement plan, as well as the first pass at the gateway signage projects. So some fun things to talk about tonight.
Mayor. Yep, good way to wrap up the night. So for the board and for the community, just a reminder of where we are with the municipal campus improvement project. That process started back in 2023, late 2023. Design started early 2023. Went out to bid last year, and the bids came back higher than expected. Certainly the dollar amount was higher and the number of bidders was very limited. I think it had a lot to do with the timing of us going out to bid. So we went back, worked with the consultant. The board approved two things late last year. One was to value engineer, find ways to reduce the overall cost of this project by not jeopardizing kind of the main elements of it, but also expanding the scope to pick up Pedal Plaza. So there's Pedal Plaza, Pedal Promenade, and Pedal Porch are kind of the three elements to the municipal campus improvement project. So Plaza is one of the larger pieces of it. So we felt if we're going to go back out, one, to reduce the overall costs, same time, let's go out for the entire scope of work. So that's where we are right now. Matt Strange from Confluence will go through that final design with the board. So this is kind of your first time seeing the plaza, albeit a lot of it thematic is consistent with what you've already been presented. And from a funding perspective, right now, we're looking at using state and federal money for this project. We have ARPA funds that the village still has that needs to be spent by the end of next year, really committed by the end of this year. So that's roughly $1.5 million of $3 million that the village received in federal funds through the state. We're also waiting for an update on a grant that we've applied for up to $500,000 from the state of Illinois, as well as money from Congressman Raja in the federal budget. They're kind of working through their budget still. Right now, it's a March 1 deadline and right now the money is, I guess, still in play in Washington, D.C. for this project. So we have up to $1 million that we're also waiting to be awarded or to hear the status of being awarded for the municipal campus improvements. Moving on to the gateway signage. Last year, much of the design was completed, and tonight's kind of the first presentation of that to the board. There are elements of the signage both in the municipal campus projects, but also standalone signage outside of the downtown area. In this year's budget, 2024 budget, there is $50,000 for a new sign. We're looking at targeting the west entrance into Roselle there at Schaumburg. That sign's really faded. But more work will have to be done from a final design standpoint on which sign we do want to do. And depending, staff may come back recommending two signs potentially, or at least design two, maybe go out for bids, see if there's sufficient funding. If nothing else, you're that much further ahead for next year. Kind of design one this year, build next year as we work through the nearly, I think, 6 signs that we have right now in the community. And there's certainly a larger element of the signage component, which would be at the train station. We're waiting for still some kind of engineering work related to the pedestrian bridge. So until some of those details come back, our consultant has kind of stopped being able to really refine and further develop that entry signage point at the train station. So that's kind of the status of municipal campus projects. The signage, we're really looking at using TIF money as much as we can for those signs that reside in our TIFs. Otherwise, we'd work through the budget process for any other signage outside of the TIFs. So that was kind of the highlights, timeline, as well as funding. With the municipal campus projects, we'd be looking to go out to bid here in the next week or two and hopefully have bids back sometime in March. So we'll have a pretty good idea where we stand early in this construction season. So with that, any questions from the board relative to money or timeline?
Just the signs, for instance, would they be like custom made?
So we'll go into all that work
you go.
next. Yeah, so this is just any procedural stuff from a budgeting perspective before we jump into the fun, pretty stuff.
All right, then I turn it over to Matt Strange from Confluence, can come up and walk through his presentations.
Right, and the guy with the fun, pretty stuff. Thank you. Excited to be here. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, board. Excited to share updates on these two really exciting projects. So we're going to begin with the Gateway signage project. So kind of looking at this map overall, really the overall idea for the project was how do we really create a nice welcoming entry to the village of Roselle and kind of reinforce the idea that this is a great place to live, work, play, and visit. And so we want to do that through, of course, signage, but also look at just different opportunities within the built environment to really kind of tell people who are driving or walking through, this is a great place to be. So we begin with this diagram that you can see up here that is kind of looking at some overall existing gateways and some other opportunities. So the areas in green, of course, are kind of open spaces and parks. Blue would be kind of schools. And then the pink dots are kind of identifying where we're anticipating either signage or other kind of important gateway nodes and opportunities. Hold on one second. Doesn't seem to be cooperating. So just to recap the comprehensive plan context, this was prepared by Ginkgo Planning and Design that kind of predates our involvement on the project. But this area was really identified within that comprehensive plan. This is the intersection of Irving Park Road and Maple. In that particular plan, there was a proposal to kind of realign Maple Avenue as it kind of teed into Irving Park Road and create two sort of plaza areas across the street from one another. As we've kind of spoken with, village administration, we've kind of moved away from the realignment of Maple as an approach. It just was sort of perceived as too complicated around McDonald's and all of that in order to make that work. And so we've been kind of looking at some other opportunities using the existing roadway framework, but incorporating things like art and signage and plantings that we'll see here in the upcoming slides to improve this intersection. So this is just kind of a high level look at the existing conditions. As many of you are probably familiar with this particular intersection, it is very pedestrian unfriendly at the moment. It's really difficult to cross if you're trying to go from the Metro parking lot into, McDonald's or across the street at all. The drive along the way is fairly bleak. There's not a lot of street trees. There's the sidewalk itself gets really kind of close to the street and is sort of uncomfortable as a pedestrian to be able to traverse. And then part of the impetus of this project too is the new pedestrian bridge that's being proposed across Irving Park Road adjacent to that viaduct. And so because that's going to have to get redone anyway, as part of that, we wanted to really think about that as a signage opportunity itself, that rather than just simply kind of plunking down a smaller sign, we could actually potentially incorporate that signage into the pedestrian bridge itself to create something more graphic, a kind of larger visual for vehicles passing by. So there's a few, back one. A few guiding principles here. The first is kind of strategic placemaking versus piecemeal signage. We don't want to simply kind of plunk some signs around where we think is appropriate. We want to think about them really in the context of other projects that are kind of in the works or kind of being planned in the future, and how do these really all speak together to create a nice welcoming experience for people entering the village. And then creating one vibrant transit-oriented town center. This was something that was really identified within the comprehensive plan, but really kind of playing up the presence of the metro and creating a more walkable destination in the heart of town. Creating a visual hierarchy, clarity, consistency, and flexibility. So with our signage, just making it really kind of clear and simple, easily readable, easily kind of digestible for people walking by or driving by. And then kind of being both present and future minded. The existing signage that, as we all know, is kind of fading in places and isn't in great shape. Of course, design styles change, kind of tastes change over time, but we want to create something that really has an enduring kind of design value into the future, and something that has easily kind of information that can be changed out, whether it's population or sister cities or kind of directional information that can easily be changed out without having to kind of tear down the whole sign and replace it. So at the intersection here at Irving Park and Maple, a few key elements to point out in the proposed site plan here. Along Irving Park itself, this is sort of done in collaboration with a streetscape plan that Christopher Burke Engineering is preparing. But the main idea here is that creating a really consistent kind of tree and lighting palette down Irving Park Road with kind of a more healthy buffer from the street for pedestrians and a wider sidewalk inboard of that will create just a much more friendly destination to be able to walk by. Having the trees there to separate you from the vehicles a little bit, and then just creating a bit more consistency as you're driving down, seeing kind of these consistent rows of trees on both sides to kind of welcome you and orient you. At the intersection there, you see kind of a graphic. We're proposing that this could actually be really played up as a pedestrian intersection, not simply with zebra striped kind of crossings, but actually thinking about some sort of graphic branding. This isn't necessarily prescriptive of exactly what that's going to be. The idea is that introducing some art, some color into that intersection that's kind of beyond a typical crosswalk makes vehicles slow down a bit, kind of creates that welcoming sort of front door and, oh, I've arrived in the village. There's sort of a triangular shape right before the viaduct that you see with the blue color there. There's a natural kind of depression that happens there and a bit of an outflow. So what we're proposing there is actually creating a small pond feature with sort of a spray. And in the backdrop of that and along the metro, actually converting that from lawn to like a prairie grass meadow type feeling. So you get sort of this native grasses and wildflowers in the backdrop of this water element, and using some stone to kind of stack down the grade along there. The pedestrian bridge then kind of cuts up behind that so that you're walking through the grasses, you're walking by the water. It creates a really kind of pleasant experience for pedestrians, but creates kind of a big enough gesture that vehicles can appreciate. And then the one element I forgot to mention on the far east side is we're actually proposing that the water tower itself could not just be a simple sign, but actually a mural. And it could be sort of a piece of art that you could potentially see from miles around, something that brings color and texture and personality, so that vehicles, again, from miles away can see it and immediately know, oh, this is a special place. This isn't just any other village. This is the village of Roselle. Next slide. So this is just showing the existing conditions there as just a simple Google Earth aerial, but you can see the sort of bleak quality along that streetscape, this intersection that's quite wide and sort of difficult to traverse. And then, of course, there's not a pedestrian bridge across the viaduct now, but soon will be. So, next slide. This is sort of a proposed sketch of what this improvement might begin to look like. You can see again along Irving Park Road that we're lining it with street trees in a consistent way, widening the sidewalk and bringing it inboard so that it's safer crossing for pedestrians, playing up that intersection with some pavement art, and then again, kind of bringing the water element at that corner with a backdrop of trees and native plantings, and then actually incorporating the signage into the pedestrian bridge itself so that, Again, we're not kind of having a small sign off to the side that is going to have to compete with McDonald's and streetlights and other kind of elements in the area, but something that's a big, clear visual as vehicles go under the viaduct. So here's just some of the kind of look and feel palette of what we're imagining in the area. We'd like to introduce some art, not only within the paving itself, but actually potentially on the walls of the viaduct. So bringing in some colorful murals into there. We know there's already been sort of some murals popping up right out here over in Sparkles Plaza, as we call it. But we'd like to kind of bring some of that art to improve the pedestrian experience as people go under that viaduct, especially with the new development kind of popping up across the way. And then again, just a simple palette of trees along the edge, improving the kind of water element at the corner there. So it's not just kind of a ditch, but it's actually a water area with a spray with some stone and some plantings. And then using kind of native prairie grasses similar to the upper right corner as kind of the backdrop to limit the maintenance on kind of mowing weekly back there and to just bring some color and personality to the space. So in terms of the gateway sign itself, as Jason mentioned, Christopher Burke Engineering is still in the process of developing exactly what this pedestrian bridge is going to look like. It's going to be something similar to the upper left, not necessarily exactly. So we wanted to show a few potential options that we would look at just for general kind of character. We also kind of included some IDOT restrictions off to the side, which kind of prescribes certain things in colors and that sort of thing that would need to be investigated a little further. But the idea here is to, again, have a big, simple graphic, potentially introduce a bit of color, a bit of lighting that really makes it feel like a special crossing for both the pedestrians crossing the bridge and vehicles passing under it. And then some signature water tower examples, some here in Illinois, others in other places, just kind of showing the possibility where you have this massive kind of white object that you can see for miles around. And by introducing color and lighting and really giving it some personality, that can really kind of take the place of a bunch of smaller signs or kind of less significant gateway elements and could become a really signature thing that you see as you're coming into town. Here's a simple diagram showing the current sign locations, and off to the right, you can kind of see some pictures of what that existing signage looks like, the simple wood signs. In a few of these, we're kind of identifying potential issues with current locations. The Irving Park Road, one in the top, for example, it's almost redundant because you already have the water tower in the back that's towering over this relatively small sign. You could potentially save money by actually not doing that sign there and allowing the water tower to kind of do the work for you. There's the other one on Plum Grove Road that has kind of the gas station sign right in it that's competing with a sign, and you kind of don't see the sign because the gas station sign is illuminated and kind of is very busy. So kind of just thinking of shifting that down so it's not so much in conflict. Some of these others are just like at Turner Park, there's a couple other park district signs kind of immediately adjacent to that. Is it too much? Is it redundant? So we're looking at ways of kind of how can we consolidate some of these signs so we're not just putting signs everywhere, but really being thoughtful about where those signs are located. And so here's some of the kind of revisions that are being proposed here. Of course, the enhanced water tower that we mentioned that actually kind of replaces the need for a sign in that area. The Roselle Road kind of 390 area, looking either in the median itself or kind of off to the right-hand side as you're entering. Some additional investigation needs to be done by the engineering team as to whether we can, really do a median there and what sort of signage restrictions would happen. The idea is really kind of creating that as a gateway as people come in off the expressway. And then again, the Plum Grove, rather than having it right next to the gas station signs, sort of shifting it a bit further down the street so it's kind of stands alone a bit more. It's a bit more visual to see. We're proposing having a sign further west along the Gary Central Avenue, kind of western gateway. There's currently nothing there that's really telling you you're entering the village. And so having something a bit out further that tells people that they are in fact kind of entering the village, we think would be a nice idea. And then thinking beyond the signage, but kind of right adjacent to this Irving Park and Maple intersection, there's a Pine Park or along Maple Avenue that we think is a really nice kind of redevelopment opportunity to enhance that and actually allow an open space to potentially be kind of a gateway element that leads you to downtown, along with some streetscape enhancements. So just to kind of recap some of the graphic standards that help develop a couple of the signs that you're going to see as options we've been exploring. This was the updated village logo, as well as some potential kind of like lattice work or railing work, just to begin to give a bit of the look and feel, that sense of sort of tradition and tomorrow at the same time. So we looked at several options for a sign. Again, this is conceptual and preliminary design, but as a general direction, this was one option we were looking at here, where we actually would do this as more of a vertical pylon than kind of a typical sign. The idea here is we could incorporate some of that kind of laser cut look with the roses in there, so it has a bit of a traditional feeling. But the verticality of it and then the use of color, we think would give it a bit more of a contemporary look. The idea is that it could be internally illuminated, so it almost lights up like a lantern as this kind of vertical beacon, so that the light shines through that kind of rose work. Using the village name kind of done vertically, so it reads kind of really visibly and large, but then incorporating some wayfinding elements into the sides of it, so that as a pedestrian walking down the sidewalk, you kind of generally see the direction of where certain elements are. The idea here is that those would be kind of plates that could be changed out as needed if a new feature came into town, something changed directions or whatnot, that could easily kind of be slid in and out and updated as needed without tearing down the whole sign. And then looking kind of a bit more zoomed in at the downtown core signage and
Let's
gateway.
pause there if that's okay before, because I think then it kind of blends into a nice transition to the plaza stuff. Are there any questions or comments thus far on a lot of the signage that's been discussed thus far, or the stuff on Irving?
Might as well ask, okay.
Trustee Duffy?
The signage, is it mounted on concrete?
That would still be something that would be kind of determined in the next phase,
You'd have
but
to
yes,
put Electric if you had lighting or that.
Correct.
Okay.
yeah, we would need electric and it would have some sort of concrete footing.
And so I'm thinking like, are these like custom made? I mean, if we bought like 3 of them 1 year and 3 of them 4 years later, would they still be the same?
I mean, the idea is that they would be custom made, but if it was a fabricator that would basically produce the shop drawings, it would be the same shell that could be repeated multiple times.
Yeah.
And the part that would change would be the directional signage that could be slid in and out. So again, as you need
Yeah,
to
because maybe we don't budget a whole amount, but like we're doing with our Christmas lights, we keep adding another batch every year and it's getting better and better all the time. So that's what I was thinking.
Well, and I will say the one thing that's probably shocking to people is our wooden signs are hand carved by some person up in Minnesota. So those take a long time. You can imagine hand carving something today, grossly expensive, but also in our climate, we've got signs that are really, people think their mailboxes are bad. The county has plowed some of our signs down to the ground practically. So I think these are a little bit more industrially able to handle our diverse weather conditions.
I like the design because over in the tollway, they've got a Roselle sign it's vertical, just like this. And it really looks progressive. I think we all saw that and talked about it. The other thing I wanted to ask David is maybe, so the state is gonna work on Irving Park Road next year?
Correct. They've indicated that they're planning to resurface the road. Now, that's IDOT, so we'll find out.
I mean, can we let them do that and then still put our stuff in?
Yes.
Okay, so we won't have to be contingent on them.
I would say with great certainty, and I'll look to staff, but we probably need to wait for the state to do their work before they'd let us play and do our work. So I think
Safer that way.
correct. Well, and I think that way we can make sure that their work gets done and then they don't ruin what we do, but if we have the ability to do it, we can move pretty quickly with it. The nice thing about all this stuff is these are as we all know, the first projects get cut if financially we need to evaluate other options, right? So we have to keep things moving, and if we are in a position where we can do them, great, and if not, these are easy low hanging fruit where we can definitely eliminate these if needed.
Well, that's all I have right now.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Is that sign, that person on the sign, skip per scale? Does that mean it's about 8 feet tall and that person's 6 feet tall?
Yes, can
Okay.
you actually go back one slide to just see that more clearly?
Yeah. Is that about a 6-foot person?
Correct.
Okay.
So, it's tall, but it's not huge necessarily. And part of the reason for the verticality too is in some cases where this is, say, between a sidewalk and a curb, where you don't necessarily have a lot of space, doing a horizontal sign either becomes kind of too low to see, or it's easy to go by, versus kind of a vertical, more illuminated pylon becomes sort of a stronger visual as you're driving.
Wayne?
Yeah, I can't remember back when I first came on the board, we painted the water tower. And it was $2,000. So I mean, that, it's a nice idea, but boy, does that cost a lot of money.
And that would be a good one to look at some grants for as well, different art
And-
grants, et cetera.
And the other thing is when you're talking about these designs on the road, here you got Irving Park Road, you can't be painting it and waiting for the paint to dry. Do you put like decals on there and? I mean,
Yeah, there's
do
different,
that.
there's different ways to do it. I mean, it can be kind of like an elastomeric kind of coating, or it can be paint and you temporarily sort of shut down a portion of the road while, it needs to do the drying. There's different options to look at, but those kind of painted intersections are being done kind of all over the country in different places. So it's not a totally implausible idea. It's IDOT is always makes things a little challenging, but
We do have a nice arts and culture group here that might be willing to do an.
Send them out with their cups to get.
Viaduct thing.
And actually, and I mean, there's places in Chicago and around where they've actually done that. Actually had community volunteers. They'll have an artist sort of paint out the stencil of where they want them to do it, and the community will actually be involved in the painting itself. IDOT might make that a little more challenging to do, but it's not out of the question.
Any other questions or comments on the signage before we kind of move into the other pieces of it? I will say, what I really like about this is, I think, the lighting piece of it. I think a lot of our signs are in dark areas, and so it's kind of silly to have a sign that no one can read at night. But I think also, I really like the modularity of it, that this could be rehabbed, pieces can be changed out, so we get bigger bang for our buck. Today, something changes on our sign, you had to have a whole new sign fabricated. So I like the idea that this is something that allows us flexibility. I think a lot of communities are building more monument type signs, and I think this is something that I think is a bit more reasonable in that sense, because you could build a beautiful stone wall, and I'm not picking on any municipalities near us, and it's stately, but then if you need to change that over time, that can become a different kind of cost. So we have to wait to see how the bids come back, but it's a good idea, so.
Was well said.
All right, so as we kind of transition to looking a bit more at the downtown core itself, we wanted to identify some gateway opportunities, both kind of in the works, and then we'll transition into the pedal porch, promenade, and plaza. We love alliteration, if you can't tell. And so we wanted to look at a few things here. All these elements 1 through 8 over onto this side are showing potential kind of signage and art improvement ideas in the heart of downtown. So looking at kind of Main Street entry at Roselle Road, there's kind of an opportunity you've got sort of a screen wall there anyway, improving that with some color or some art, or some signage that begins to welcome people kind of into the main drag of downtown. The northwest corner of Main and Prospect, kind of having a signage on one side, same with northeast corner of Main and Park, the west side of Main and Howard Street, and then actually across on Prospect and Irving Park, there's sort of a blank brick wall out there today. I think it could actually be an interesting opportunity for another mural. It kind of would terminate your view going down Prospect Street, and would be this nice kind of welcome into downtown. And then looking at the Prospect in Irving Park, there's a potential streetscape enhancement opportunity there. There's some angled parking on both sides that seems sort of underutilized, and there's existing parking lots kind of wrapping the buildings on both sides. Some potential opportunity there to improve the streetscape plantings as well as add some signage. The pedal porch and promenade signage, which we'll go into a bit more in detail here, as well as the pedal plaza signage that you'll see in some of these upcoming slides in a little greater detail. So looking at the pedal porch sign itself, we wanted to have something that was really similar to the character of kind of the overall monument sign for the village that we were just looking at, but really adapting it more specifically to pedal porch. So instead of Roselle being written vertically, we're writing pedal porch. Again, have the wayfinding elements off to the side. And instead of the typical kind of Roselle red, we're actually flipping to pink here, because as you'll see in kind of the upcoming presentation as well as our kind of previous meetings, we're actually suggesting doing these kind of pink petals as an element that ties the whole thing together. I think there was fear that doing red petals on the ground might look like blood drops or something not so great. So pink as kind of a friendly kind of entrance, an unexpected, more artful way to treat it into downtown. And then kind of a typical gateway sign for downtown, showing how this, again, could be adapted to the Petal Plaza area as well as a typical downtown sign. This one is a horizontal sign, as you can see. We're suggesting that the letters at the top kind of stand proud of the sign and have some three-dimensionality to them and could potentially be illuminated from below. And then we include the village logo and the wayfinding information off to the right-hand side that again would be internally illuminated or at least the village logo there so that you get some night use out of it and the sign above brings some color and personality. And so we think these would probably be more appropriate to kind of going up and down Main Street versus kind of the pylon signs that are maybe at more of a vehicular type scale. So now as we sort of shift into the municipal campus, want to give everyone sort of a refresher of where we've been and kind of where we're going. This was the initial site plan that was done back in December of 2022 that was approved. There was these three key areas over on the left, the big green space here between Village Hall and the police station. We're calling Petal Plaza. Petal Promenade in the middle is more of a garden pathway that's connecting one side to the other. And then on the far right-hand side of the screen or north, which is to the right in this diagram, is what we're calling Petal Porch, which is a way to kind of receive people off of that intersection. The petal idea, again, kind of came from sort of a play on Roselle itself, this idea of roses or rose petals being sort of a ceremonial or celebratory kind of a gesture that you might see down a wedding aisle or other kind of, celebration that it's a welcome to the downtown. And so really using that as a motif kind of throughout the design, we were actually at this design also proposing doing that down a portion of Prospect Street as well. Then if you go to the next slide, this was where we were at as of May in 2023. So as Jason said, we first were kind of excluding the Petal Plaza scope, which was furthest to the south here. And just doing the porch on the promenade. We sent this kind of revised design out to bid. It came back much higher than expected and we only, I think, had one bidder. And so we'd like to kind of refine that and enhance that. And we've kind of gone back and forth with Mayor and David to kind of work through some revisions that we think will be not only a value engineering approach to the design, but actually we think makes a better design ultimately anyway. So if you go to the next slide, this is where we've landed today, and I'll kind of walk you through some of these areas in a bit greater detail. But some of the key value engineering adjustments we made is Petal Port originally had this large deck area that was up against the restaurant itself. In kind of looking at it a bit further, there's some grading challenges there across the site that was going to require some extra footings and some other things across there to make that work structurally. And so what we've done is actually taken that away from the wall of the restaurant and flipped it to the corner, which we actually think creates sort of a nicer design gesture. It's welcoming people right off the corner. Just socially, people tend to hang out at intersections anyway. That's where a lot of conversations happen. If you've watched anyone around a city, a lot of people tend to congregate there. And so it's a natural place where people could hang out. It also creates a nice opportunity for people in the adjacent lawn area shown in the green to actually face north. If you wanted to do like a small concert or performance facing north or east is kind of ideal because you're generally doing those in the afternoon and you don't want the sun in people's eyes. And so we think this orientation actually kind of creates a nicer opportunity for that to happen. And then we've simplified some of the furnishings and some of the amount of petals that we were showing through there and furniture to lower the costs and places. And then Petal Plaza will kind of show you some of the design evolution here on the coming slides. So in the Petal Plaza revised site plan, this is very similar to kind of the initial plan. Again, we did not actually bid this initially, so we're including this in with the bid. But just as a refresher, what we're doing here is we're taking the existing drop off and shifting it south to create space for this kind of community village green between Village Hall and the police station. This is kind of a large lawn space with plantings around the perimeter and trees around the perimeter. We have a permanent stage area to the east that's directly between Village Hall and the police station. The idea being that if you wanted to do outdoor concerts and events, that you have kind of a nice permanent setting with a covered canopy there where that can happen so that a vendor isn't needing to kind of set up their own stage and lighting and that kind of stuff, but that it's all sort of built into this one element to make it easier to host events. And then the kind of pink zigzagging lines that you're seeing is sort of a suspended art element that you'll see in some of the views. This is something that we had shown kind of early on in the conceptual design phase. But the idea here is that it creates sort of this artful canopy over a portion of the lawn. So as you're driving in or as you're visiting, it becomes kind of this Instagrammable, moment here next to the village that kind of, gives an inviting feeling to the space. So here's in the next kind of series of views, we're showing the current view over on the left and what the original view was over on the right. So what you can see that's a bit different is we have a bit more planting wrapping around this than we did initially. We originally had kind of a big signage element right at the corner, which was going to be a fairly expensive feature. So the signage is a bit more kind of controlled, and we're really kind of using planting to give a bit more barrier between the street and the lawn so that it just makes you feel a bit more welcome when you're sitting inside it for an event. Slide. This is a Village Hall looking east. Again, you can see that big signage stepped element in the existing view on the upper right and kind of how we're revising that. So really using planting as a way to kind of freshen up the entrance. And the idea here is to really create 4 seasons of interest, lots of color and personality to the planting, attract pollinators, et cetera, to really make it a welcoming space. And then here's a night view. You can see we're actually relocating the flagpole a bit closer to the corner of the building, and then using some simple uplights on the trees and a few other lighting elements throughout to really make this a nice space from morning to evening. Here's a view kind of sitting within that stage looking west. So you can imagine, day to day that this just becomes a simple place with movable seating and a cover overhead where you can enjoy lunch and kind of hang out. But then during an event, it's really easy to clear those tables and chairs off. A band or, other performer can easily set up here with a built-in canopy and be able to kind of perform with very little setup. Here is the Village Hall facing the police station. We didn't really have a view of this previously, but this will show you a bit more of what we're imagining for the suspended art element. The idea is to kind of create these petals overhead that sort of shimmer a bit in the wind and move. Again, just creating this sort of fun, unexpected, kind of almost Instagrammable moment as people come in. You can also see in the background at the police station, there's kind of that copper colored element. This is where that first responders memorial that we mentioned earlier is going to go. There's a blank brick wall there. And so we're creating a bit of an alcove with some donor bricks at the base so that it creates sort of a nice art element adjacent to the plaza space. Here's a view kind of at the Village Hall drop-off. You can see that we're using planting again to kind of shield the lawn space from the cars a little bit and provide a bit of separation, as well as just create a nice gateway as you're getting out of the car to, go into the Village Hall. You're kind of walking through the planting, through the lawn, and just have a much nicer kind of arrival experience. This is the Petal Porch and Promenade. Again, we kind of walked through some of the key design changes earlier, sort of simplifying the amount of petals and reorienting the porch, and using a structure it's more of an off-the-shelf or slightly customizable structure versus a highly custom structure from before we think will help save a lot of money. And then we've cut out some of the planting areas and a few other things here to help shave off money in different places. This view is an aerial looking south right at that corner. You can see what we had in the 2023 plan was it was sort of a circular porch with a really custom sort of shade structure. We've done a more simple kind of semi off the shelf structure that you can see here, but still this idea of this welcoming porch space right at the corner. It's still large enough. We think that a lot of people will be able to kind of use it and enjoy it. It's not as massive as it initially was, which we think will save some money. But the grading here is much more forgiving right at this corner, which will help save money. This is a view more eye level looking at that porch. So it's a simple kind of two-step walk up and we have an accessible ramp that goes off to the side. This is a space where you can hang out at the corner, sort of people watch. And we think it'll be a nice support to some of the businesses up and down Main Street. If you want to go grab a coffee or grab a juice or something, you can come here and eat lunch outside.
Where is the handicap access for people to get into Village Hall? Have parking for, how close can they get?
Yeah, it's basically in the same location. It's just shifted further south. So we took like almost the exact same drop-off arrangement. It's just shifted over slightly. But it's a pretty similar distance. It's not like a dramatic change. Next slide. So here's a view at the mural wall. We wanted to really make sure that existing mural that was just recently put out there was really visible and prominent. In the previous design, we had the deck kind of going right up to the base of it, and there were some concerns about the visibility of that. So actually by relocating the porch area, it makes that much more visible, and we've actually oriented the path to walk alongside it. So it creates a nice sort of photo op, and having some planting at the base of it, which we think will improve the experience as well as save money. Here's kind of an aerial looking north at the, you can see the mural over on the right and the porch in the background. Again, during a small event, a performer could stand underneath that shade structure and the crowd more on the lawn area facing north. And we think this creates sort of a nice pathway as people are walking alongside that mural, and they're also walking right alongside the restaurant's outdoor seating. Here's a view within the garden space looking north. So this is kind of representative of that promenade space. So a really kind of public garden space with a lot of interesting color and texture and seasonal variation, something that really attracts butterflies, creates a nice photo ops. And then we're throughout there kind of using these pedal seating areas that would have movable Adirondack chairs or movable bistro tables that become a fun place to have lunch or hang out within a garden. Here's right at the corner of Village Hall, you can see the relocated flagpole in the foreground. And basically we're taking the sidewalk and pushing it right next to where the street parking is. So it makes it a bit easier to just get out and go right onto the sidewalk versus walking across the grass onto a sidewalk. And using the planting to create a bit of separation so that when you're inside of the space, you don't feel like you're looking right at the cars. Slide. Here's a view looking south at Petal Plaza. Again, you can kind of see that you're walking through this garden promenade towards the plaza in the background. But it'll just really kind of change the pedestrian experience walking through here from just, you know, some generic kind of lawn and trees to something that really is quite exciting and different and unexpected. Here's just a look at some of the hardscape palette. We're trying to, again, use really durable materials that will kind of stand the test of time and limit maintenance. So just from simple concrete paving for most of the path to kind of this painted concrete, this is an example of a project in Chicago that has this kind of paint on the ground. It's easy to kind of update and refresh as needed if it chips or that kind of thing over time, versus pavers and things that need to be reset and become kind of a constant maintenance issue and fade and crack and all that sort of stuff. Using composite decking for the porch itself so that you don't have real wood maintenance of staining and cracking and all that sort of stuff, a more kind of durable material. And then again, these sort of shade structure elements, one that's this sort of semi-customizable one that you can see in the bottom with the white and the perforations on the top. And then one that would be between Village Hall and the police station. That's kind of more of a purely off the shelf structure, but is a solid canopy so that it's a weatherproof structure. Some of the site furnishing elements, we're trying to bring a bit of whimsy and fun into the space rather than all kind of typical bolted down sort of benches and things that are immovable, bringing in movable tables and chairs, Adirondack chairs, chaise lounges, things that people can position how they need to. If you're there with a group of more than 2 people, well, then you bring a couple extra chairs. You want to sit more in the sun or in the shade, you can kind of move things to your liking. And this is done in a lot of urban parks in New York City and stuff where there's a much higher population density and really they have very little vandalism, very little theft with this, and it really improves the pedestrian experience. And then looking at sort of the lighting palette here, we're trying to, as much as possible, kind of bring some ambiance to the lighting. So whether it's uplights in the trees or kind of subtle cove lighting within different wall elements, illuminating the mural with kind of the wall mounted light and doing some simple like uplighting and downlighting within the shade structure. We are, as a part of this, taking the existing village light poles in many cases and replacing them with the new standard. Which was kind of asked for since we're in the process of doing the project anyway. So those will be upgraded, but we'll also have these other enhanced lights. One of the things we did do as a value engineering effort is we previously had these sort of sculptural lights all through the planting area that we've taken out and simplified a little bit to still give a photometric level in there that feels comfortable to walk around in, but will save a lot on fixture cost. And then just kind of the overall plant palette. The idea here is that we really have 4 seasons of interest. We have planting that is generally very durable and easy to maintain. Things that are, are kind of bulletproof plants or that survive very well in our experience. And so this is kind of showing the tree and shrub palette. And then the next slide is showing kind of the herbaceous layer, the grasses, the perennials, bulbs, that kind of thing. So the idea is that this kind of turns on and off in different seasons and it gives you a reason to keep coming back. So in the spring, there's kind of one palette of flowering plants. Though as those fade, then there's something the next season in the summer and then into the fall. So there's always a reason to kind of keep coming back and seeing what's blooming. And it would be great to get, local garden clubs and that sort of stuff even involved in the process. That's the last slide.
Any questions or comments? Hopefully, I mean, it's different, but it feels very much so the same, but hopefully cheaper is the punchline I would say if I could summarize it, right? So I think this is, hopefully 3rd time's the charm in that we can find that we've edited this down to keeping the heart and soul of the mission here while being able to make sure we don't have to spend a single cent that's village dollars, and we can use as much of our grant money and our other federal and state funds that we have towards this project to essentially zero cost from our side, I think. So any questions or comments? Trustee Domke?
I like the idea that you're trying to minimize the maintenance on this stuff. When you plant grass though, that's not always the easiest thing to maintain. You gotta have a sprinkler system, otherwise somebody's gonna have to be watering it. And if the grass goes south, then you got mud. So is grass the cheapest way to go, or would a permeable paving? I mean, I know that costs money, but you probably don't have to fix it.
Yeah, so typical kind of, seeded or sodded turf, once it's established, is usually fairly drought tolerant. We are proposing an irrigation system in here, so that it will be watered. There will, of course, be, weekly mowing. We did discuss
Fertilizing, I mean,
right,
or weed whacking or whatever they do.
right. We did discuss some alternatives such as permeable pavers or decomposed granite or other kind of materials like that. I think there was a concern in that in doing that, it begins to feel almost too hardscaped and sort of unfriendly. It also, with seeded turf, while there is, of course, annual maintenance with that, it's a lot less upfront cost than doing permeable pavers that, could be $20 a square foot kind of a thing, or even decomposed granite becomes fairly expensive compared to turf. So it's usually does end up being the least expensive way to go and creates the most kind of park-like feeling, we think.
And our municipal campus is already irrigated, so while this would be additional irrigation, I think it's something we've been doing, so we'll find out. Better than shards of glass that are scraping kids' seats right now,
I
so.
want to sparkle lot.
Other
I
questions?
like the lighting too, because you can do so much with LED lighting nowadays. It's amazing.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Everyone good to go out to bid with the proposed changes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, staff has their direction on it, so thank you so much.
Thank
Any direction on, as far as the signs? I know Jason had mentioned earlier that we were looking at proposing potentially 2 locations and the board could come back and evaluate once bids come back. Is that also consensus of the board, or do you have other thoughts? I know the original thought was to do the western side, Western Irving Park Road sign, which is technically right on the other side of the train tracks by the airport, for those of you. That one is pretty weathered. I know I've personally noticed that the one that's on Roselle Road driving in north from near Forest or Picton is one that, as I alluded to, snowplows were pretty aggressive in plowing and pushing that over. So county, not ours. So, but it's looking a little bit lopsided. But are there any thoughts as far as locations that you guys are feeling? Well, we have the budget for one, and we've technically have 6 signs out in the village, so there's no need for us to replace them all at once, but.
You're just saying which one should we do first?
Yeah, are we happy to go with staff's original proposal and identify 2 and potentially we get those quotes back and we pick the one that we like the most, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other open-ended questions for staff on this one that I've forgotten? Seeing no's. All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate the updates on that. That concludes new business. We do have a second opportunity for village board public comments. Is there any members of the public that wish to address the board at this time? Yeah, come on up and just state your name for the record if you don't mind, and make sure you're speaking clearly into the microphone.
Hi, I'm Philip. I just wanted to say I do like this plan, especially the wildflowers part of it. I just wanted to make sure that the board, takes into consideration like the kinds of trees that would be potentially planted, like, not using the same species all in the same row, because I know none of us want a repeat of the emerald ash borer. So just a consideration I thought I'd, make.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Any other members of the public wish to address the board? All right, let the record show none. Is there any other business for discussion?
His point, though, we have been doing a tree diversity program since the emerald ash borer. As we didn't want to get all one kind. And emerald, the ash trees were easy ones to plant for developers because they grow fast and they were cheaper. But that's your good point. We got in trouble by having all one species. So we've had, since we treated all these ash trees, David and I have been on the board a long time here. We had a lot of trees that we saved, but we also learned a lot from that thing too, to your point. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, one thing we can do is, if you want, talk to our public works director at the end of the meeting, and we can email you our tree survey and our reforestation plan. What we have done is we have a plan, and we technically have a tree picked for every parkway location to some extent. And so we have done a total inventory, and we do this on a rotating basis to understand what species we have and the varieties, so that way we can try to increase our quota. I think if I remember correctly, we're really oversaturated in maples and I want to say honey locust trees maybe. And so we're working to get other varieties in the mix, and also looking at what are trees that were marginally hardy before, and because of global warming trends, we can actually plant them and survive in our climate more, so we have more weather tolerant for whatever the future may bring too. So any other business for discussion only from the board? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Vote.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion to adjourn is passed at 8:21.